In John chapter 13, verses 31 through 35, we hear Jesus' parting words to his friends. As Judas goes out into the night, Jesus turns to those who remain and gives them a gift, a new commandment, not a new doctrine, not a new ritual, but a way of life that marks us as his disciples. Hear the word of the Lord. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You should also love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Here ends the reading. Thanks be to God.
Thank you so much, Manhattan Beach Community, for having me today. Just by show of hands, who was at the adult discussion group? Great, I'm glad so many of you, I didn't scare you off, you came to service as well. You got a preview of the sermon today, or maybe a full view would be a more accurate way to put that, of some of the artistry that I have done through film. But I'm actually told that my first act of ministry also happened through an artistic expression when I was 3 years old and my dad was up at the pulpit preaching. I was sitting in the back row like a good Christian. Hi, good Christians. And I got a hold of a permanent marker and got loose of my mother and proceeded to draw with that marker underneath all the pews on the carpet all the way up to my dad up at the pulpit. So before we go any further, NBC, I just need to say to you, you have really nice carpet. Oh, that's great, brand new and fresh. If you want to go ahead and take us to our second slide, AV team back there, we'll go one more to the next one. As was mentioned, I am a preacher's kid, and a large reason that I'm here with you today is because of that. I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska, which is the dead center of the country. We call it the Heartland. And my dad was the pastor for the bulk of his career at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Lutheran Campus Ministry, which at one point was both the largest Lutheran campus ministry in America, and my dad won the award for being the best Lutheran campus pastor in the country. Now, if anyone doubts that my dad deserves that honor, they need only ask my 3 older sisters, because they will all tell you that their favorite memories with Dad were when he would drive them to and from college. From Nebraska to Missouri and back, Nebraska to Minnesota and back, or Nebraska to Delaware and back. Because they said it was during these long road trips that they got to have really great discussions with him, talk about stuff that really mattered to their lives now that they were in that 18 to 25-year-old age range that you have to specialize in if you're going to be an award-winning campus minister. Now, I'm glad my sisters were able to share that, but unfortunately I am not able to have the same experience because when I was 19 years old, my father passed away from esophageal cancer. Now, for a good Midwestern responsible Protestant who had already started saving for my retirement in high school, my dad's passing changed everything. I was always told that we are born, we go to school where we should get good grades so we can get into a good college where we will meet our spouse and then get a good job that we can do until we turn 65, at which point we'll be able to retire and do all the things we've been dreaming about our whole life that take more than 2 weeks vacation. Except when I saw my dad pass away at age 58, I realized that that was not going to be his American dream and would not be everyone's American dream. Now, I know we have one minister in the congregation today, but by show of hands, are there any other ministers or people who went to seminary in the audience? Okay, 1, 2, they're always very slow to raise their hands. I'm not going to make you pray or anything, don't worry. But I do have a question. was this a common backup career that they pushed in seminary? Because my dad always said if he hadn't been a pastor, he probably would have been a trucker. No? I don't know what it was. If it was the unlimited amount of sunflower seeds he could eat and throw on the floor, if it was the wind in his hair, or just really bad late night talk radio. But whatever it was, my dad loved to drive. So much so that when we would take our annual family vacations from Nebraska to Florida, a 28-hour drive, my dad would always do the entire thing straight through all by himself with a giant grin on his face because he just loved road trips that much. So a few days after his funeral, being just 19 at the time, this being the first encounter I'd ever had with the death of someone close to me, and quite honestly having no idea how to even begin to process what was happening, how to start to grieve, I did the only thing that made any sense. I climbed into his hail-battered Hyundai Elantra, still smelling of his pipe fumes and with his sunflower seeds on the floor and Atlas by my side, and took my first ever independent road trip just days after his funeral to the glamorous locations of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Rochester, Minnesota. And while those locations might not be glamorous by typical standards for me, especially looking back, it was exactly what I needed to process my dad's passing. It took me out of a town that had been nothing but chemo and radiation and surgeries for 3 years and now reeked of cancer and death, and put me into a new physical space that allowed healing places in my heart and my mind to start opening up in ways that I don't think would have happened otherwise. Realizing the power of that initial road trip, I made a vow to myself right then and there that every year from then on for the rest of my life, around April 29th, I would take a road trip. It didn't have to be glamorous like Sioux Falls or any epic trip, but just something to remind me of this lesson I was learning, this realization I was having that life is short, tomorrow's not guaranteed, and we don't always have the time we think we'll have to pursue our dreams or to spend with those we love. Now, as these road trips developed over the years, at the time I finished grad school, we'll go to our next slide, I did what I like to call my dream road trip, and I ended up living out of my dad's car for 9 months and spending 260 days traveling around the country, visiting everyone I'd ever met who was still alive and lived in North America, every Facebook friend. With the goal being that now that I was 25, I felt like a real adult. I thought, you know, I've already had high school classmates who have gotten in a car accident or committed suicide, and life really is precious, and I want to make sure that now I'm an adult, I make a conscious choice to spend one more moment, one more memory with those I love. And so I traveled around the country to see them all, and as I was doing this, I would meet people, and they would ask me why I was in their town, and I would tell them why. And my peers all thought I was nuts. They're like, you just finished grad school, you need to go get a job, your career is waiting for you, like you're totally squandering this moment. And my elders, those in their 50s, 60s, and 70s said, good for you. I wish I would have done that at your age. I wish I would have taken time for that. And so as I went around the country, I thought there's got to be something I can do to help share this message with my peers and help them learn this realization in a way that's less hard than I had to learn it. And as I drove around the country, I started visiting the first National Park Service sites I'd ever met in my life. We didn't go on weekend camping trips because Dad had to work on the weekends. So finally, as a 20-something, I was visiting places like the Grand Canyon and Yosemite and Yellowstone, and they were so incredible and so beautiful. And I was meeting people from every state, from every religion, every race, every country. I was like, man, everybody loves our national parks. And so I made a goal that when I turned 30, I would do something so epic with my annual road trip that it would grab all of their attentions, and seeing their love of the national parks, I said, that's the way to do it. I'm going to visit every single national park in America and use that to grab people's attention and share this Carpe Diem message with them. Except then I did a little research and I found out that there were lots of people who had already visited the 63 capital N, capital P national parks in America, and that wouldn't really get anyone's attention. However, America does not just have 63 capital N, capital P national parks. We also have national seashores, national lakeshores, national preserves, reserves, historic sites, over 20 different designations that make up over 400 sites across the country, many of them which will one day become upgraded to become those famous places like Grand Canyon National Park that was once a national monument. I also figured out if I could visit every single one of those sites in one continuous journey, I would not only set a world record as the first person to do that, but also the youngest person in history to visit every National Park Service site, 2 world records. And I thought, if that is not enough to grab the media's attention and share this Carpe Diem message inspired by my dad's passing, I don't know what is. And so, on April 29th, 2016, the 11th anniversary of his passing, I set off on that parks journey, and if you'll go 2 slides ahead, you will see a map, and that is the actual journey that I did for 3 years non-stop, living in a self-converted cargo van that me and my 2 degrees in classical singing built out with a lot of help from YouTube, and that was my home on wheels, so for 3 years I could complete that journey of visiting every single National Park Service site. And I'm happy to share that I was successful not only in reaching the parks, but also in using them to share this message, because I was getting 4 pieces of earned media coverage per week on average, which was worth over $10 million in earned media coverage, all to share this message inspired by my dad's passing with the world, thanks to our National Park Service sites. But something else interesting happened as a result of that journey. I learned very early on, while I was trying to fundraise for it, that there were no openly LGBTQ plus people with any sort of presence in the outdoors industry or culture. There was no gay Bear Grylls. And at this point, I had been out of the closet for about a decade. That's nearly 10,000 hours, I think, so I was an expert at being gay. And what I had learned in that time was that there were a lot of people who that bothered. And I had saved up only about 1/5 the amount of money it was going to take to pull off this national parks journey. And after writing 400 different brands and being told no by every single one, I knew my only hope of completing it and honoring my dad was to crowdfund that parks journey. And I looked around at the culture at the time, and there, in the history of the outdoors industry in America, had never been a Pride Month ad. There were no openly LGBTQ plus people sponsored by outdoor brands, and there had never been an openly LGBTQ plus person with any sort of public presence attached to a brand, which taught me really quick that the only hope I had of getting America's nature and park fans to fund this parks journey was to go back in the closet. And so that's what I did. I spoke about my Christian minister father who had passed from cancer and my love of national parks, 3 things that should not offend anyone in America. And I set off on my journey. But Google does not go away. And while living in Washington, D.C., I'd started a group for young adult LGBTQ plus followers of Jesus that was named Queer for Christ. And every year we had an annual mixer with the young adult Jewish group that I decided to title Foreskins Optional. So I had, as a result of the media attention from Foreskins Optional, I had become what I like to call gay on Google, which means if you Googled me, you would find out very quickly that I was a big ol' homo, which created a huge problem while trying to keep the world from knowing this part about me so that they would fund my journey. But an interesting thing happened a year into that parks journey. I got a message from someone on Instagram who had read about my parks journey and Googled me and figured out I was gay. And he said, I'm 15 years old, I go to a private Baptist school in Texas, and I'm not out of the closet to anyone. But I read about your parks journey, and I looked you up, and I just want to thank you. Because now I know when I grow up, I can be ordinary. And he said, then I found your Instagram and I see you're setting world records, and now I know when I grow up I can also be extraordinary. And I was wiping the tears off my smartphone, and I realized at that point I did need to come out publicly on this journey. I needed to be that openly gay outdoorsman that I had been looking for to help me accept myself when I was a kid growing up in Nebraska, seeing only drag queens and people dying of AIDS as my role models of what it meant to be gay, and I needed to help create that new role model, and so that's what I did. If you go back 1 slide, I started taking pictures with rainbow flags all around the country and sharing this part of myself with the world. And something really interesting happened as a result of that. I started being asked to be the guest singer and preacher at churches all around the country, and ended up doing so at 113 churches around America over the following 2 years, and fundraised the rest of the money for the Parks Journey, mainly do that. So America's Christians funded a gay man to set a world record. If that's not Jesus flipping the script on what popular culture says, I don't know what is. And so as I traveled the country, I was doing these media pieces, and every city I went to, I would visit the nearby national park, and the local paper would write about me, and they started to say, Micah is going to be at this church, First United Methodist, on Sunday, and he'll be preaching. And I started to really worry that someone was going to come shoot me. And so every week I was aware that I would be standing up for love, and that might put me at personal risk, but it was necessary. It was necessary because no matter where I went around the country, right next to that article about me, this was 2016 in the summer, so this was the lead up to the election that fall. And every article next to mine was talking about how we were now divided as a country. We were red states and we were blue states. We were rural and we were urban. We were rich and we were poor. We were white or racial minority. Imagine the difference. The articles all said how we were so different, we could never get along, we were nothing like each other, we were living in these two Americas, which was really weird for me to read as I traveled to all those different places and met all those different people from all those different colored states and noticed how similar we all were. Everywhere I went, no matter what type of place it was, all the people I encountered wanted the same thing. They wanted to love those that they were close with, and they wanted to receive their love in return. Now, the preacher's kid in me would say that this is mankind reaching out, yearning for the love of God, to give God that love and to receive that love in return, and this is mankind trying to play it out within our own earthly ways. But I find it so interesting that we are living in a world where everyone of all those differences is starving for love and trying to figure out how to receive it and how to give it back in return. Now, we have this tradition in my religion called vocation. And vocation is not just your job, it's not just your paycheck, but a vocation is really your life's calling. It's the place where your greatest talents come together to meet the world's greatest needs, and they come together and form your vocation. And Martin Luther talked about that we don't find our vocation by studying our own navel or listening to our innermost thoughts, but that we find our vocation by listening to the calls of the world and what the world is telling us our talents are, and what the world is asking us to use those talents for, to fix things, to provide love, to make the world a better place. And so through this National Parks Journey, while I thought I was supposed to go out on the road to share this message about my dad's passing, what I actually found was my vocation. And if you'll go 2 slides forward, I learned that I did need to be that openly gay outdoorsman role model, and that the way that I could apply this vocational idea to my life specifically was in this outdoors culture. And that I could maybe not fix the world of homophobia, but that in this niche I could make it a better place. And so I thought about the thousands of messages I got from people around the world who said, Micah, I'm so amazed that you're doing this as an openly gay man, because I grew up in a small rural town and I left that place as soon as I could for the safety of a big city. And when I go out to rural areas or to parks, I hide myself. And I apologize for who I am to make everyone else more comfortable, because I'm not welcome to be who I am out there because those people don't accept me. And I remembered the safe space symbols I'd seen on some schools around the country, the upside-down pink triangle, something much like what I see in your bulletin today, this solidarity symbol. And I thought, well, it'd be really great if when you're out in the middle of nowhere, Montana, with no cell phone service, and you're in the middle of a park and you meet someone, to not have to wonder, should I lie and say that my boyfriend is my brother so that we're safe? And I thought, what if there was a symbol that could be on that person so I could instantly know non-verbally with a signal much like this Solidarity Sunday symbol that they were a welcoming person in this space that traditionally was not welcoming to people like me. And so I made this outside safe space symbol that you see on the screen. It's the rainbow flag, the trans flag, the bi flag, a tree trunk made up of racial skin tones from all around the world to show that these identities come in every ethnicity, and inspired by the rainbow trees of Haleakala National Park, which when the bark falls off, they are red and orange and yellow and green behind the bark. And the entire tree is made up out of triangles for anyone who doesn't feel recognized by those flags. I made this pride symbol specifically for allies to wear to help change the culture, to help change this idea that these outdoor and rural spaces are not welcoming, by showing people who their allies are and showing people who they're safe to be their authentic selves with. And as Pastor Mike mentioned earlier, I'm happy to share that in the 5 years since launching the Outside Safe Space, we've sold over 107,000 symbols in America. And by the end of this fall, every single REI store in the country will have the option to sell our pins and our stickers. So we, one person at a time, are sharing love by showing people who we love and not who we hate. Now, if you would like to get one of those outside safe space items, you don't have to wait for your local REI. I brought the pins and the stickers, patches, beanies, keychains, magnets, everything with me, and I'll have them out at the patio afterwards, so come to coffee hour to hang out. But that is a way that if you feel so called, you can share your love with that section of the community. And so the title of today's sermon is Finding Vocation in a Vacation. People look at my trip and they think it was a giant vacation, and from that came my life's calling, my life purpose. So my challenge to you today is to think about your own life and think about the talents that you've been told you have, and the ways that you can use those talents to help make the world a better place. The ways that you can use your specific gifts to help show love in a world that is begging for love, even though sometimes it feels like it's easier to be hateful and it's easier to respond with hate. The only way that we will overcome hate is with love. And so to think about the ways that, as Jesus told us in today's gospel, that we can honor Jesus and Jesus' work and Jesus' message by loving one another, and by finding ways to love one another, and by finding ways in our own lives to use our vocations, our being, to spread more love in the world. Now, I sort of ended up here in Los Angeles in a very unique way. I actually was living in Westwood, the neighborhood, this January through middle of May, because if you want to hit our next slide, a couple years ago I made a documentary called Canyon Chorus that was chosen as one of the best outdoor films of the year. It's been touring the globe with the Banff World Tour this year to all 7 continents, 47 countries, 600 screenings to 500,000 people. And as a result of that film, one of my lifelong goals has been to kind of be the openly gay Bear Grylls and to have a show, a TV show, telling people what our best National Park Service sites are and how they can visit them, kind of like Rick Steves, helping show people on TV these amazing parks they've never heard of to help them go out and experience them, but also to show them a national parks expert who just happens to be gay, to hopefully change some of their stereotypes. So sitting in their home on their couch, they can encounter an openly gay person and find themselves relating to an openly gay person. And so I've been touring the country with Canyon Chorus on the various film tours, and last night in San Fernando, as part of the Wild and Scenic Film Festival tour, which is a California-based film festival, I was showing Canyon Chorus. So they flew me down for that, and before I fly home this afternoon, I reached out to some churches near LAX, and I'm happy to say that I was able to share that film with the adult discussion group today. If you want to raise your hand again, if you were at the adult discussion group, ask them if it's worth watching. If you'd like to watch it, you can watch it for free. I have postcards that I brought with me that are on my table that'll be at the patio afterwards. I have hundreds of these. I don't want to fly home with them, so please take them. They're free. They've got a QR code on the front that you can scan, and it'll take you directly to the YouTube link to watch for free. And on the back, it's got the URL. that you can type in. I've also made Mad Libs, so you can fill out Mad Libs and put your favorite automatopoeia to say what you thought of the film. Very unique to your location today. I'm told that our prayer leader is an actor. The reason I lived in LA is I was told that that's how stuff happens, and that things get made because you meet somebody at a party here, or somebody on your kickball team works for Warner Brothers or whatnot. So these postcards I made for the film festivals, and they say, please send this to a friend or your favorite streamer employee. And go to Mikah's website and ask him for the deck about his TV show about our national parks. So unique to your church that I don't tell most churches is you might actually know someone who works for Warner Brothers or a production company or something. So please take 10s or 20s of these postcards, fill them out, mail them to those people, because if the TV show ends up because of Manhattan Beach Community Church, then I will come back here and host the world premiere here or something. So please take those postcards if you would like to watch Canyon Chorus. If you weren't able to join us this morning from the comfort of your home, it's just 16 and a half minutes, and if you don't laugh, I will Venmo you $10. But mostly, I just want to send you out today into the world and remind you that that world is begging for love. And that God has shown us through Jesus Christ that it's our job to help them find that love. So to ask yourself what ways you can do that, especially right now in a world that feels like hate is winning and hate is the way to get things done. We know, we've been shown throughout history, even when it feels like that love is the way to go. So find your vocation, even if you have to take a vacation to find it, and find ways that you can help do what Jesus did, and that is spread more love to the world. Because as they say, and they'll know we are Christians by our love. Amen.